we grew up in I guess it was an environment that you can do anything. Like no matter what it was, no matter how outlandish or crazy the idea was, there was never anyone to say, I don't think you can do that. It was more or less, okay, let's see what resources we have, how we can, help you accomplish this, right? So kind of grew up, I guess, with the sense of I can do anything.
April Atkins, founder of Info with April Consulting Services, LLC, Faith Life Flow podcast, and author of Fearless 31 Days of Journaling to Overcome Fear. She's a passionate speaker, teacher, author, course creator, and journaling coach dedicated to inspiring others. Her focus is on purposeful living and finding victory in Jesus Christ. She's committed to touching the lives of countless individuals by encouraging them to walk in faith, break free from the chains of bondage, and experience genuine transformation. I'm Marcy Grayson. Thank you for joining me on the Finally Be podcast. Be the ultimate example of what's possible. I am so excited about today's guest, y'all. I'm on pins and needles. This is somebody that I grew up with, when I was young and stuff like that. And this person, I promise you, is somebody that just moves your heart. And the reason why I asked her to come on for today's podcast was because, I just feel like people need to understand what it feels like to be an example of something that is so inspiring that it moves other people into that position. She's the person I call a woman who is positioned in her power. And I just think she's extraordinary in every way. She's just the sweetest person. And so I want to introduce all of you to my girl, April. Hey, April, what's up?
Well, hey. I'm so excited to be here. I really am. And humble.
Oh my God. Yeah, you better be. I love you so much. I love you so much. And so what I would love for you to do, I always just kick it off and just start up, just get in there. I would love you to just tell everybody about your origin story. Like,
okay.
How is April?
How was April? Okay, well, listen. So I am originally from Indiana, right? South Bend, Indiana, right? Born, but actually raised in Germany.
Wow.
Yes, and then came back to the States as a teenager. So, and then was in South Bend for the rest of my teenage years and even my 20s. So, but grew up in the church, right? I think that's like everybody's story.
Everybody. Right.
Right, exactly.
All day long.
Listen, like 5-7 days a week.
Right.
So God is a huge part of my life. But grew up in a very strong family, right? Very strong, very entrepreneurial, very, I would say, leadership driven, type of family, organized family. We're not crime bosses or anything like that.
You sure you went to Germany for a while? We don't
know. Listen, might have picked up some things. Who knows, right? No, but definitely just grew up around some really just cool women and men, in the faith. And then outside of the faith as well, because not everybody, is in the faith, right? And so, or goes to church even. So, but there are still things that, I've learned and that has helped me to be who I am today. Right. Okay. So, yeah.
So what would you say that one thing that really helped you to move through life when it comes to your upbringing, when it comes to what you accredit yourself to being this person that you are today?
Wow. I would say a huge part of my family, or the family that I was born into, right? We grew up in I guess it was an environment that you can do anything.
Mm.
Like no matter what it was, there wasn't anyone around that was like, no, you can't do that. No matter how outlandish or crazy the idea was, there was never anyone to say, I don't think you can do that.
Wow.
It was more or less, okay, let's see what resources we have. Let's pull this, let's pull that. Let's see how we can, help you accomplish this. Right. So I kind of grew up, I guess, with the sense of I can do anything.
Wow.
You know?
You know what? A lot of people say that that's what they inspire to do. Like, I can do anything. That's something that's like people's mantra, affirmations. But to have a real true family that backed it up with action, like, parents are, baby, you can do anything you put your mind to. But to really have somebody be like, no, we're gonna make this happen for you.
Yes.
That is something different, because that moves into inspired action. That moves into something that's going to make it's just going to happen for you.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you process that? Being around, I know other people around you were not thinking that way.
Correct. Correct. And so so that kind of stuff did show up in relationships, right? Whether it be friendships, whether it be romantic, relationships. Because you have people around you, like we grow up differently, right? And in different environments. And so not everybody is privy, I would say, to a family dynamic in the way that I grew up. So when you come across those people who have grown up with the no, with the you can't make it, with the you won't, you're not going to be anything. When you come across people like that, I'm not going to sit up here and say that it's easy to be friends with people like that or be in a relationship with people like that, because the more of that you begin to hear, right? Or the more you connect yourself to people like that with that type of mindset, it does actually rub off on you a little bit, So I had to really be anchored and grounded in God and in my faith. You know what I mean? To help pull me through, because at some point you cannot lean on your family. You know what I mean? You have to dig deep
Right.
and you have to pull out what's been planted on the inside of you. So I would say being around people who don't have that mindset or are not that did not grow up like that, or just they're just pessimistic. You just have people that are pessimistic. They just don't. Nothing goes right in their life.
That's true.
And because of that, they they want like no one around. They don't want anyone to have a great life or be successful. And so I had to come to grips with that and say, you know what, April, you're going to have to disconnect yourself. And that is hard. When you have been friends with somebody for X amount of years, when you, let's say if you're in a relationship with someone, even married, right? That is difficult to come to a place where you know that you have to separate in order for you to thrive, because some people will just suck the life out of you.
That's real talk.
That's real, So yeah, it just comes down to evaluating my circle, and then also paying attention to like what's going on with me emotionally when I come up against people like that. Like, does it spur me on, or is it causing me to have high anxiety? Am I overwhelmed? Do I feel like I'm becoming small, around this person. And so, yeah, definitely self-reflection, but also my faith.
That makes me really think about what that really means to have that inner knowing and that insight about who you are. With all of the encouragement that you had in your life, that insight had to come from more than just what other people was telling you. And even more than just seeing the opposite of your environment. It had to come from somewhere else, because we all have these struggles of, we deal with that. Is this possible for me? Because we do. So what was that challenge for you to get to that place to start being that insightful? Like, hold on, wait a minute, my energy is shifting. Because I know it wasn't no automatic thing, right? So my energy is shifting. I need to recognize what this is and what I can do in understanding this and move forward in a different way to see things differently. How did you get there? And what was that? What was that challenge for you?
Wow. So I got there through journaling, actually.
Okay.
So, and this, see, now you getting all in the nitty gritty. So, so I was married before. I was married once in my former life. No, I'm just kidding. I was married, and
formerly known as April.
right. Formerly. But this is late 20s, right? Late 20s, early 30s. My marriage didn't last long. We were married for about 2.5 years. But around, I would say that last year, maybe last 6 months, I had, man, I was if a lot of women on here would know, I was a size 14 when I got married, right? 12, 14. And then when I got divorced, I was hanging around like a 22, 26, 24,
okay.
26.
So you know the struggle.
Listen, I was like 200, almost 250 pounds. Now I'm 5'2". So that's a lot of weight for a person who's 5'2". I had developed sleep apnea. I had acid reflux.
Wow.
And just a whole host of probably other things that I didn't realize was going on in my body, right? Because depression, just all the things, right? So, but getting back to your question, because it leads up to how I discovered, or how I became self-aware and realized, ooh, this is a trigger for me. During my divorce, or I would say shortly after my divorce, I met up with some friends. I would say God placed some people in my life at that time to help me through, that time. And I began to journal. They loved going to the gym. They loved getting out and going to the mall, just walking around, just regular stuff. They loved doing that. So I tagged along, right? So before I knew it, without even trying, I had lost 50 pounds.
Wow.
I wasn't trying, just hanging out with them, right? But I'm journaling at the same time. And so then I got serious because I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I'm actually losing weight without trying to lose weight. Like I didn't change my eating habits. Like I was still probably eating 3,000-4,000 calories a day, which is horrible. But we were so active. You know what I mean? Like we were so active that the weight was just falling off. So, so then I was like, okay, wait a minute. I want to get serious. Now I really actually do want to lose weight for real. So I hired a personal trainer.
Okay.
At the gym. Right, exactly. And I began to journal. He didn't mention journaling. I just was like, let me see what else I can do, So I started writing down everything that I ate. Then I took it a step further. I started writing down how I felt when I ate those particular meals, right? And over time, going back, just, rereading things, started to discover, oh, when you're really emotionally high, whether it's you're happy or whether you're sad, like you're eating bread a lot, or you're eating cookies and, all the carbs stuff, right? And then but when I'm, regular, either I would barely eat or I would eat something, decent. I'm not going to say it wasn't carb filled, but it wasn't, the cookies and the brownies and the feel good stuff. Right. And also my portions would be smaller when I was in a better state of mind. When I was emotionally high, I noticed that I would just eat. It would be more on my log. So then once I realized, I said, oh, I'm an emotional eater. Right. So then once I figured that out, then I was able to curtail that, and then pay more attention to what I was eating and why I was eating and what my emotional state was like when I ate. So then that helped me lose like another 40 to 50 pounds. Wow. Once I discovered, hey, let's get a rein on this. Let's pull this in. So now this is years later, right? So we're talking over a decade ago now. I have, essentially kept the weight off. As more recently, I've been picking up weight. I think it's age, but whatever.
So you're like 25 now?
Right. It's not falling off like it used to.
Right.
But now though, it's second nature. Right. You know what I mean? Like if I notice that my emotions are in a certain way and I begin to crave certain things, immediately I'm like, well, April, that's an emotional response. You don't need to eat right now,
So you picked up some really crucial points on some of the work that I actually do with people. It's like that point of awareness comes through clarity, and our clarity is about understanding. A lot of people think clarity is having this plan, having this next step, but it's really just seeing your options. That's when you get clarity. You open up these doors and you become conscious, and you allow yourself. We have this natural way of flowing. We have a natural way of being, and to understand our own natural blueprint of how we process life and move through energy and in a purposeful direction comes from how we are allowing ourselves to be aware and choosing, and then willing to be open and vulnerable to what really is, in our presence, and that is something that I think a lot of people miss when they're looking at their formula for themselves. Like, my blueprint is this and this, and they're trying to mimic somebody else's blueprint. Right? They get a system and be like, oh, this is going to work for me. Right. We have our own natural way of moving. We're unique beings, we're here to inform, the masses, but we're here to just show up as ourselves. That's our purpose, to live and to live out loud. And that is something that I'm hearing that you did very it was like, hey, this is what I do. Like, I know me. I just had to remember who I was.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And stay conscious of that. You can't forget, I can't for one moment, just knowing how my body works. You know what I mean? Like, I can look at cookies and gain 5 pounds. Okay. I know that about me. So knowing that, then I say, okay, well, make sure that no cookies are around you if you become disheveled.
Right. Okay. Girl, we need to get together and talk a little more about that.
Yes. And so listen though, so when I go grocery shopping, especially if I'm trying to stay away from certain things, I just don't buy them. I go through phases where I don't eat meat, right? Not because I'm trying to be vegan, not because I'm trying,
Yeah.
it's just some days or some weeks I don't eat meat. So then I just don't buy meat
Right.
there's no reason for me to buy meat to put in my refrigerator or to freeze just for it to be there. Right. I cookies, I have an affinity for sweets. I keep saying cookies and brownies. That's because I like to.
I love them. I love them too.
I like the sweets. Right.
Right.
But if I know that I'm fasting, I just don't buy that stuff. I don't tempt myself with things when I'm trying to, be on a certain path, or be focused in an area.
I love that because when we get to this place of understanding that about ourselves, there's gentle reminders all around us telling us who we are. And when we decide to listen, because we're already in alignment, when we
Mhm.
decide to listen to what is there and really focus in, like you were saying, it does something different. It moves you from that. It goes beyond the belief
Yeah.
of, okay, so I'm getting my belief from reading this book or talking to this person, whatever, but it goes beyond that and becomes an embodiment. Like
Mm-hmm.
it just becomes something you wake up and you like, this is what I know,
Right.
and I can walk in that. And
Right.
that's something that's crazy. But it also something that I want to ask you about is how did you get to that place of trusting that, trusting yourself in that?
Man. Okay. So I can say that it's not. Well, I guess it is kind of. So it's a trust in God and a trust in me, right? So it's trusting the God in me.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? And I come to that by reading His Word. By reading the Bible, because really you cannot. I don't care who you are. If if you say that you are, a believer or a Christian, whatever, right? And you don't ever spend time learning about what it is that you say that you profess, for your faith, or whatever principles you live by. If you never spend time in that word or that book or that teaching, right? Then you really don't know
Mm-hmm.
that person, that principle, that lifestyle you're supposed to live. So that's really where it comes from. It's just me diving into the Bible, getting to know who God is, what He wants for me, for my life. Because a lot of times people say, "Well, I don't know my purpose. I don't know what I'm here for." And it's like, well, if you're a believer, then it's in the Word. You know what I mean? Like it's all there. But if you're not reading it, then you're not gonna know. You're
Mm-hmm.
not going to know, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's really, and it's not just all about reading the Bible, it's also in prayer, right? Meditation, like I said, fasting away from things, pushing the plate away, not just pushing the plate away, but maybe even turning off the TV sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can tell you, I have gone months without watching TV,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and it's because there's so much stuff on, and this, whatever you're putting in is what's going to come out,
It's gonna come out.
right? And that's what you surround yourself with.
Mm-hmm.
If I say, ooh, I haven't seen any red cars lately, and then all of a sudden I walk outside and that's all I see. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? So it's like you really have to anchor yourself in your belief, in whatever, again, whatever you claim you are, and the principles that you stand on. You have to anchor yourself in that, because if you do, then it will automatically come out
Mm-hmm.
of you. And so that's where the knowing comes from. It comes from knowing who I am in Christ, knowing what I'm called to do, right? Knowing that I'm not doing this alone, right? Because even though He's placed everything inside of me, it's up to me, right? it's still up to me to make the moves and to put one foot in front of the other. People say, let's just write these affirmations. Let's just do that. And we're going to speak affirmations. We're going to speak affirmations and it's just going to happen. Like, no, that's not how it works.
That's not how it works.
That's not how it works. There's a scripture that says faith without works is dead. And so with affirmations, it's the same thing.
Right.
You can affirm all you want, but if you don't put action behind it,
you got to make the decision.
It's just empty words coming out of your mouth.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so I really try to stand on that and live by that, and so, and that's what comes out.
It's so interesting that, you anchor yourself in these things, but you always find a time to quiet the noise, right? In order to hear from that thing that you're embedding in yourself, in order to hear the thing that is inside of you that's trying to speak to you, speak through you, so that you can make the inspired action that you're supposed to make. And it's just so interesting to me that so many of us don't know how to quiet. And when it did get quiet, like you said, you still have to make the choice. You still have to make the choice to do that thing. Or you hearing a whole lot of God ain't doing nothing about it. And then you like, well, my life ain't working right. Right. So how do you get to that place? I'm just kind of processing, like, how do you get to that place where you really in that point in your life where you like, I know this thing that's coming in, but I'm choosing that now. Like, because I'm saying, like, what you're saying is good, and we journaling and we sitting there meditating and all that kind of stuff, but you still have to, because that's the thing that you were kind of talking about a lot. Like earlier, you were saying people are pessimistic about their life. They don't see their purpose. All of these things cloud that, because that decision has to be made. How do you do that? How do you make that decision?
Man, so listen, prayer. No, no, look, no. In all seriousness, though, you have to. It is part of quieting yourself. So like meditation for me is meditating on God's word, right? Meditating on the scriptures and meditating on who he says I am and meditating on who he says I can be and meditating on his promises, right? But also understanding that I have to do something. It's not just like I can memorize the Bible, right? But that does me no good if I don't put one foot in front of the other to try to, make some of these things happen. So how did I move from just thinking about it or meditating about it or reading about it to action? Man, I think it really goes back to my family, meaning not them in particular, but just the environment that I was raised in. Raised in a can-do environment, raised in a you can do anything environment. You know what I mean? And being around people that pushed you to be excellent. And pushed you almost to your detriment, right? because listen, could be a two-edged sword, right? Because yes, I grew up with a lot of positivity and a lot of love, right? And a lot of what's the other word I'm looking for? Like I can't think of the other word I'm looking for, but you get it. It's like I grew up in a positive environment that supported a very supportive environment, right? And so that shaped a lot of who I am and why I think the way I think and why I move the way that I move. I saw other people doing it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like my grandmother was an Avon lady forever. You know what I mean? I seen this woman do math in her head without a calculator. You know what I'm saying?
Wow. Oh yeah, I got that product for you, and it's gonna cost. You need 3 of them, okay?
You know what I'm saying? It's
Right.
like, I mean, and I've seen just, you know, other people in the family just against odds that, you know, that you would be like, there's no way they're going to overcome that. And yet they do,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because they kept moving forward. And so, and even in my own life, just the experiences that I've had, you know, like with being divorced, right? Just coming away from that thinking, man, I am broken. You know, I am not lovable. You know, man, I have failed. You know, I'm not going to be successful. To turn around and God bless me with a promotion like right after that. To let me know that no, you forgot who you
You
were.
forgot who you
You know what I
were.
mean? You forgot who you were. So let me remind you, you know, of who you are and why you're on, you know, this earth.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I've always had like an inner drive, and I can't explain that, you know,
Yeah.
it's just it's an inner drive, it's a self-motivation,
Mm-hmm.
it's a will to just to do what I know that I'm supposed to do, and that's help others, you know, help others get out of the rut that they may find themselves in, and to let them know that hey, you can do it. You know,
Okay.
just start imperfect, you
Mm-hmm.
know, start without the podcast microphone, you know. You don't have to have all of that in order to just start and to do what God has called you to do on this earth.
Mm-hmm.
We are here to help other people.
Mm-hmm.
That is my like main driver. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not here for me. I'm here for other people.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what helps me to, put action behind,
Yeah.
behind what I do.
You got that thing that's driving.
Yeah.
You've talked about this setting this conditions, this environment, not just external, but internal environment for yourself to do these things, to help people, to connect, to do all of this kind of stuff, right? My question is, why you? Why are you the one? What was it? What was that something inside of you that said that yes, God do this for everybody now? You know, you are equipped, you are, you know, you are whole, worthy, and ready to receive everything that you are, and everything. You are not broken, you are not down, you are a beautiful masterpiece, everything that you are, part of your experience. But hold on, wait a minute. Let me ask you. Why are you the one that is able to speak up, is able to, why did, what was that thing for you? I understand it was other people, but everybody say that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what about you? What was it for you that said this is different from me? I'm
Mm.
unique in this, you know?
Oh, yes. Oh, you know, that is a really good question. So, what makes me unique? You know, you're gonna have to ask God that question because I'm like, because no, seriously, because it's like, um, man, I feel like sometimes I'm an underdog, you
Mm,
know. And I know people may not view me that way. They may be like, oh no, you know, but like I have gone through a lot of things
mm,
that aren't public.
mhm,
You know what I mean? That have helped build who I am, you know, today. I have dealt with a lot of rejection in life. You know, I have made a lot of bad decisions. You know what I'm saying? That didn't kill me, thank God. You know, I just, and I think with those experiences all together have just helped fuel the person that I am. You know, I hate to see other people being pushed down or talked bad about, or being stepped on. You know, I'm one of those people that will speak up for that person, you know. And so because of that, and because I know that words really do frame our reality. I know a lot of people, you know, they think, oh, well, you know, we were talking about talking, but you do have to put action behind what you say. But that those words are first thoughts. Mm-hmm. So you first got to get your mind right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know, and then those thoughts become words, you know, and so then you have to line up your words. Mm-hmm. You know, once you do that, then you can begin to act on the things that you need to act on. So for me, it's more or less just being a spokesperson or a mouthpiece for the underdog. Mm-hmm. For those people that don't feel like they can speak up, right? For people who are going through legitimate things, and are being laughed at because of it, you know, but helping them find their voice, helping them find their way. So if I can in some way help someone else with their story by maybe speaking on the topic, right? Or even just finding a scripture or something that I can relate to, that can relate to them, to help pull them out, pull that voice out of them, then that's what I'm supposed to do, and that's what I'm going to do, and that's what helps me to continue to speak. Because I was shy. I used to be shy. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't say that I'm all the way over that, but I'm a lot more secure in who I am and a lot more confident in who I am because of the things that I have gone through, and knowing that these are just people. These are just people. This is just life, mm-hmm. You know, and life is going to life.
Life is going to life.
I don't, you know, you can look on the news and you can see these celebrities out here, these people with money, who are going through the same things that we're going through. They are dealing with insecurities. They're dealing with, you know, debt, right? They're dealing with loneliness. Even some of them that are married and have been married for a long time, they're still dealing with loneliness. Mm-hmm. So I just look at it as like it's life. So now how do I navigate this? And then how do I help somebody else navigate?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You inspire by recognizing that the things I've been through, the things that I allow myself to be a part of my experience, right? Because some stuff you still in it, right? So to have all of that as a part of your experience and know that this is who you are, even when it don't look okay, even when it's a struggle, even when you eating a cookie or 5, you know, this is still a part of your experience, and then being able to recognize that it sounds like that pushes your voice out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does. And just knowing again that I'm helping other people, mm-hmm. because that's really what it's all about. It's not necessarily about me, you know, even though, I mean, I'm the one speaking, but it's more about helping other people, because there are so many people out there that are silent. Mm-hmm. Either silent by choice or silent because they're allowing someone else to silence them. Mm-hmm. Right. And I've actually been in relationships where I have been silenced, mm-hmm. where I have been told, you're too bold, or you talk too much, or might want to watch the words that you say, things like that, right? So I understand what it's like for someone to take or try to take your voice from you, and so that's why I am very just passionate about speaking and speaking up, and whatever that looks like, that's what's coming out on the podcasts and just the different other platforms that I'm on. It's just letting people know, hey, you have a voice and you have an audience of people that is waiting to hear that voice and that need to hear that voice.
Well, I'm so happy that you were able to bless me in knowing that. Because for me, I grew up thinking April is perfect.
Oh my God. No.
Yeah, because I'm like, you could sing, you had this effervescent, presence about you. You were always so loving and caring, and your smile was genuine. You actually asked people about them when you came up and talked to them. And I was like, hold on, she read.
Yes.
So that kind of knowing is just, it's just so beautiful to know you, just so beautiful to have you in this experience. I want other people to know you. I want to know, like, how can we get with you on a, like, let's follow her, let's do something, let's support that. What's going on with you? Tell us a little bit.
All right. So I have a company called Info with April.
All right.
And it's, you're like, hey.
I mean, you got some information.
Listen, right. So I have some information, right? So, I do have a website. It is infowithapril.com. And then also I have the book, of course, that has come out, 31 days. It's called Fearless, 31 days.
I gotta say it.
Right. Exactly. Fearless, because we out here being fearless, y'all. But it's a journaling book, a journal/devotional. And so this January, see, this is the time to bring this up. This January, I have an event, and we're going to go through the book, January 1st to January 31st. And so it is 5 a.m. fearless journaling.
Okay.
And so you can sign up with that as well. I think I gave you the link for that. But it's $9.95 for the entire month. And you can join whenever you want to join. You don't have to join on day one if you don't. That's just too much. If you're like, you know what? I can't. You can join anytime in the month. But we are going to be at 5 a.m. Central Standard Time, just, going through this fearless journey, because fear cripples people. Fear stops you from using your voice. Fear causes you to be stagnant. Fear causes you not to try, and so we are getting rid of that.
Okay. Let's do that.
And we are getting rid of that. But that's what's going on with me, of course. And then I have the podcast that I'm doing, which is called Fearless Conversations.
Okay.
And so what I do with that, though, is I talk to people like yourself who have small businesses that are out in the community helping people, and just, talking about your fearless journey, how you got to where you are, and what you're doing in life, and how your business is fearlessly helping people, so yeah, that's what's going on with me.
Okay. I love that. I love the fearlessness. That makes you just switched my whole question up. You just revamped it. So usually I ask about what is the type of life you're creating. But I want to know from you, how did you get to that place of fearlessness when it comes to, what was that fear? And then what is fearlessness? Because, people be like,
I'm feeling so. I was like, but no, you ain't doing nothing. You know. So what is that? Why did you decide to go with that? Like this fearless journey. What does that mean?
So why did I decide to go with fearlessness? Because a lot of people deal with fear. Me included, right? Afraid that maybe I don't use the right words. And when I say the right words, it's like I'm not an English major, so my speech sometimes, I'm grammatically incorrect 90% of the time. Okay. Let's just be clear. Okay. Right. And so I I'm afraid to speak because I'm like, well, I'm not going to say that, right. Or maybe sometimes I don't have the right words. I can't, my mind is moving so fast that I can't slow it down enough to really say what it is I'm trying to say, right. And so, and even in this entrepreneurship journey, because I do have a corporate job as well. And so trying to do what God is calling me to do and moving me eventually, right, away from corporate America. Like who would say that in corporate America, knowing that some people at my current place of employment is going to watch this, right? And they are going to see me and hear me say that. And I mean, but it's like getting to that place of being not afraid to say it. That, one day I desire not to have to punch a clock.
Right.
And it's okay for me to say that.
Yes.
Does that mean I'm going to slack on my corporate duties? Not at all. It just means that I have dreams of, making my own self wealthy.
Get paid being April.
You know what I'm saying? Right. Because, and there's nothing wrong with corporate America because there's a place for that. Obviously, there's a place for that. There are people that are designed to be prosperous and grow in that space. Right. They're supposed to be there because they're supposed to maybe talk to the CEO or be in the CEO's ear or be in the CFO's ear, whatever, right? They have a purpose and that's their purpose. But as for me, it's getting to a place where I'm not afraid to walk away from corporate America at some point because I have been afraid. This is all I know. I've been taught that, you work, right? You work for somebody else and then you retire and you put money aside for that retirement, right? And if you don't work in a conventional, I guess, approved space, well, then you're not doing anything with your life. Right. But that is not true. That's not true at all. And the truth, the real truth is we are supposed to be working for ourselves and we are supposed to be blazing a trail for other people. We are supposed to be showing other people how to do this, right? And then part of my path is, not just being an entrepreneur, but being an entrepreneur who is also in corporate America and charting a pathway. You know what I mean? So it's like, but getting over that fear of doing that and speaking out, oh man, it's a lot. But I rest on I think it's 2 Timothy chapter 1. I want to say it's chapter 1, where it talks about God didn't give us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. And I really rest on that in everything that I'm doing at this current moment. is that I don't have the spirit of fear. I have power, I have love, and I have a sound mind. Soundness of mind also is discipline, right? I'm disciplined in what I'm doing. So that means if I have to get up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning to work on my business, or to spend time with God because I don't have any other time in the day to do that, well, then that's what I have to do. You know, I don't have any children, but there are people out there that have kids, right? And you know, between being a mom or a dad and working 8-9 hours a day and trying to do your entrepreneurial thing and everything, you don't have a lot of time for yourself. You don't have that quiet time, and you have to make that quiet time. So it's really just pushing past the I don't want to the right. I'm gonna push past the people saying that I can't do it. I'm going to push past, the fact that, yeah, I spend 9 to 10 hours a day on this job, right? But I'm going to push past that because guess what? If I could spend 8, 9, 10 hours for somebody else, surely I can find an hour or two for me, So I hope that answered the question. I'll be all over
that. We have this conditioned self where we stay in our patterns and our habits because it feels comfortable, because this is what, like you said, what we think we know about us, but it's actually from everywhere else. It's from everything that's just flooding in for us to be acceptable in the things that we're doing. And that soundness that comes from us, that comes through us, that says you're unique, you're different, that is the scary part. That is where a lot of the fear, like, I can't be that. I can't be that, because that would come outside of what we were told we were supposed to look like. We were told we were supposed to do with our lives. We were told this, but it's that creator energy in us that bulls over, that says it's something different in us, and we have to move with that. We have to move through that. And that fear is just telling us you're scared because this is true. That fear comes from helping us acknowledging, bringing us to that awareness that there is something more inside of us, or you wouldn't be thinking like this. You wouldn't be questioning your life. You wouldn't be questioning what else is possible. You wouldn't be questioning, what trail you can blaze, as you so elegantly put that. It's just, if it's there, to not just move past it, but know this is who you are. You're meant for this.
Yes.
I so appreciate you, girl. I love that. I love what we're meant for. I love our voice, right?
Yes.
And you
yes.
are definitely the ultimate example of what's possible, because that right there just bringing us to that place of this is possible.
Yes. Yes.
It's possible.
Yes. And it's not going to be easy. So I don't want people to think it's going to be easy, because none of this is easy. You are going to have to sacrifice. And so, like, for me, I'm not a morning person. So I don't know why I said I was going to do this 5 a.m. journaling stuff with people. But right. But this is going to be a sacrifice from January 1st to the 31st, right? That's going to be a sacrifice for me. And because it's not me getting up at 5 a.m., right? It's me getting up at 4 a.m.
So you can prepare.
So I can prepare for the 5 a.m. You understand me? Because there are going to be people, like, there's people who've already signed up. And so I have to show up for them. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't, look at the clock and be like, oh, well, not today. No, I have people depending on me, right? And so, but so it is in anything else. You have people depending on you. So you have to do it. Whatever it is for you, you have to do it because people are depending on you getting it done or doing it.
I love that. Thank you so much. You just went through all of my points. Elevate, transform, and accelerate your life, girl. Come on, elevate. You got to show up for yourself, right?
That's it. Show up for you.
And then do something about it. Take some action.
Yes.
Thank you for ending that for us with some powerful words. We got our voice back today, girl.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. No, and thank you for having me. I love you.
I love you.
And I see what you're doing, and I'm just so happy and so proud, you know, of you and just all that you're doing. Because you are, listen, you changing some lives too. So I'm so happy. And thank you for having me on.
It was so fun. I'm going to have you back, and we're going to talk about that voice somewhere because we got to get steps for that.
Yes.
But I love you, and thank you so much. All right. For the Finally Be podcast.
This has been the Finally Be podcast. This is your girl, Marcy Grayson, the intuitive therapist. And I am inviting you to a free consultation with me to disrupt those patterns, those things that are holding you in place, and see what's possible for you. You have these visions that are ready to be uprooted so that you can start growing in the life that you really want to create. And this is where you do it. If you go to finallybe.com, that is finallybe.com, and get signed up for your free consultation with Marcy Grayson, the intuitive therapist. See you then.